Welcome back to my channel, WWE Universe, the moment we have all been buzzing about, arguing over, speculating on, and desperately waiting for has finally arrived, and it hit with the force of an earthquake across the entire wrestling world. For weeks the community has been in a frenzy, dissecting every frame of footage, every cryptic hint, every offhand comment from the roster, and every suspicious camera angle from Survivor Series. Fans have built theories on top of theories, only for new clues to tear them apart again. But now the wait is truly over, because on this unforgettable episode of Monday Night Raw, the identity of the Survivor Series mystery attacker wasn't just teased, hinted at, or half-revealed. It was laid bare in a way that changed the landscape instantly. And what came to light was far more shocking, far more emotional, and far more dangerous than anyone could have imagined. This revelation doesn't just answer a question. It rewrites ongoing rivalries, shatters old alliances, resurrects forgotten grudges, and sets up a collision course that leads directly to the road to WrestleMania. What we witnessed wasn't just a reveal, it was a declaration of war, and trust me, you do not want to miss a second of this massive breakdown because this mystery being solved is only the beginning of something darker and far more explosive. The night itself felt uncanny from the opening moment. The energy in the arena wasn't the typical pre-show excitement. It was heavy, almost suffocating, as if every fan knew the truth was hovering just out of reach. The air had that electric quality you only experience before a once-in-a-generation moment. Since that chaotic night at Survivor Series, every Raw has carried a tension that refused to fade. Promos were analyzed word by word. Stares backstage were replayed as if they were clues in a crime drama, and every superstar seemed on edge. This Raw felt like the breaking point, the night where silence could no longer hide the truth. When the cameras cut to the ring and Adam Pearce stood motionless under the lights, you could feel the weight on his shoulders. His expression told the whole story before he even spoke. This was no longer about rumors. This was no longer speculation. WWE's internal investigation had reached its conclusion, and Pearce said in a voice more somber than authoritative that the company now had undeniable proof about who orchestrated the attack during War Games. He didn't dress it up, didn't try to soften the blow. He simply demanded that the person responsible come to the ring and face the consequences. The entire arena fell silent, thousands of fans frozen in place. It felt like the earth itself paused. Then the lights dropped. Not flickered. Dropped. A deep collective gasp swept through the audience. And then came the sound, the strange, unsettling, metallic rhythm of an industrial beat that immediately told longtime fans that what was coming was not joy, not triumph, but something far more sinister. It wasn't Austin Theory's music. It wasn't anyone currently active. It was the kind of sound that crawled under the skin, and as the beat continued, the crowd began to realize what they were hearing, though nobody dared to believe it. Out of the darkness stepped a lone figure, walking with a slow, predatory confidence. He was covered head to toe in black, a hood draped low over his face like a shadow come alive. He didn't soak in the reaction. He didn't posture. He simply stalked toward the ring, moving with the precision of a man with purpose, a man who had come not to explain himself, but to deliver a message. Pearce, sensing the danger radiating from this figure, dropped the microphone into the stranger's hand and quickly retreated from the ring. For a long moment, the figure stood completely still as waves of boos crashed down from every direction. The crowd wanted answers, but they also wanted to vent weeks of frustration, fear, and expectation. The figure raised the microphone, and a distorted voice leaked through the speakers. Cold, low, and dripping with resentment. He mocked the rumors, the speculation, the theories that ran rampant online. Everyone had asked who the attacker was, he said, but nobody had bothered to ask why he stepped into that War Games match to bring chaos to CM Punk specifically. The tone of his voice was distorted, but there was something familiar buried beneath it, something in the rhythm, in the bitterness, in the deliberate way he delivered each syllable. He slowly raised his hands toward the hood, and time seemed to stop. He pulled it back. For a full second, the arena was dead silent. One of those rare, perfect moments where thousands of people collectively lose their breath. Then the explosion came, shouts, screams, curses, disbelief pouring out from every corner. The face revealed was older than when we saw him last, lined with battle scars, including a harsh, jagged one above his right eye. His expression was a storm of rage and clarity, and the fire in his eyes was unmistakable. It was Samoa Joe. Joe didn't wait for the crowd to settle. He didn't smile, didn't relish the shock. He simply continued speaking as though nothing had changed. He said he didn't lay eyes on CM Punk that night as just another rival, another superstar, another opponent. He saw a ghost. He saw the man who walked away from their war years ago. He saw the unfinished story that Punk never allowed to conclude. And in that moment, Joe realized he wasn't just stepping into the War Games attack to send a message. He was stepping in to reclaim the piece of himself that Punk tried to bury. In Joe's mind, CM Punk walked away from a battlefield that was supposed to end in closure. Punk left, the world moved on, but Joe never got that ending, and the bitterness had been burning in him like a dormant volcano just waiting to erupt the moment Punk returned. But Joe wasn't finished. He made it clear that this was not just about Punk. This was about every person who pushed him aside, every official who overlooked him, every announcer who stopped mentioning his name as if he had never existed. He declared that he had been erased from WWE history, and this return was not a comeback, it was a reckoning. He vowed to tear down any obstacle, any superstar, any legend that tried to stand between him and the justice he believed he was owed. The aftermath of this reveal sent shockwaves through the locker room. CM Punk was shown backstage watching the segment, his jaw clenched, his eyes full of a mixture of shock, disbelief, and familiar rage. This wasn't the opponent he expected to face upon returning to WWE. This was a man with a personal vendetta that stretched years deep. And as if that weren't enough, Wade Barrett, who had been subtly teasing involvement for weeks, suddenly became a wild card. His commentary grew darker, more cryptic, hinting that he had known more than anyone realized. Whether Barrett aligns with Joe, opposes him, or somehow becomes another piece on this blood-stained chessboard is still a complete mystery, but one thing is certain, the path ahead is lined with chaos. This revelation changes everything. It reshapes Raw, reshapes Punk's comeback, reshapes long-buried history, and pushes the entire WWE Universe toward a brutal confrontation that now feels inevitable. Samoa Joe didn't return to rebuild bridges. He returned to burn them down. And as we head toward WrestleMania season, the stage is set for a battle built on betrayal, unfinished business, and a rage that has been simmering for years.